All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're at our next service call. We got a new residential client. He's been watching me on YouTube for quite some time right now. He's got a gas-fired steam boiler that he inherited with his home, but it's plagued with problems. I swear, you can't make this up. Check this out. What do you think, door number 1 or door number 2?
Probably.
I'm gonna guess it's the one on the left. I'm curious how to pronounce this guy's name, though. Yep. Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
You are?
Dan.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike.
Okay, nice seeing you.
You as well. How do you pronounce your name?
Dan Paul.
Okay.
So for everybody,
Don't worry about
call me Dan, you know.
Okay. How may we help you, sir?
Yeah, so as you enter here now, you could smell gas. I don't know.
Yo, who installed this?
I don't know.
You don't
You
know?
bought the house like
You
this?
bought the house this way?
Yes.
It's wrong. It's piped in wrong.
Holy.
Are you having problems with the heat? Probably not, right?
No, what happened, the one radiator upstairs in the front,
Yeah?
there's no heat coming there.
Yeah.
I had it out during the summer because I was doing the floor.
Floor.
Yeah, so I reinstalled it.
Yeah. Wow, this is some good stuff, by the way. It's installed wrong.
In what
What way?
Yes.
You're missing a vital. Well, you're missing a couple vital things. Number 1, you're missing a piping configuration called a Hartford Loop. Okay, that's the first thing you're missing. And number 2, you're missing a piping configuration called an equalizer. All right. So the best way to explain the latter part, right, the equalizer, is that the system, right, the boiler, the kettle, on the pot of stove, pot of water in your stove, needs to have equal pressure leaving the boiler and coming back.
Okay.
And the way that's achieved is by a piping configuration called an equalizer. So coming out of the top of the boiler, you have this steam pipe here, right, which continues and it goes goes there, right? But it needs to stop along the way, and there needs to be a connection going back to here, right? And that piping configuration is called equalizer piping. And the piping shall be, and I use certain words because this is what code is drilled into my head, and also instructions, RTFM, read the factory manual. It shall be done that way because the pressure leaving needs to be the same pressure coming back. And if you don't do that, you'll have problems. Some people get lucky, they don't have problems until there is a problem, then you have to take care of it. But it's a fairly new boiler. It's like they just didn't care. They did it for as cheap as possible. But that's number 1. Number 2 is you're missing a piping configuration called a Hartford Loop. Now, the Hartford Loop is installed as a T that's installed on that equalizer piping, and it's connected to the return piping, which is this here, right? Also, I don't know the size of the boiler yet. The size is no idea. It's blocked by that. 138,000 BTUs. It's 3/4 to 1/2 inch, so that's okay. But the Hartford Loop has a T, right? Is a T, which will allow the boiler not to run empty should the wet return have a problem. And you don't have that either. So, and that is also wrong. The pressure control. That's a minor setting, but then that I believe that everything is a certain way for a reason. Like there's no equalizer pipe because there must have been a reason for that. Either the plumber who installs is incompetent, is not a plumber, is a handyman, or they were looking to screw over the homeowner at the time, or they really didn't care. Right, the pressure control is set that way because that's the way it was set to compensate for deficiencies in the system, or they didn't know any better and that's just the way it came, and they just said, okay, F it, you're more pressure to make the problems go away. But that's why there's counterclockwise screwdrivers, not just clockwise screwdrivers.
Okay.
All right, so second floor, front bedroom radiator, being fed with 1 inch. If we go into the basement, this pipe does not exist in the front of the house in the basement. It only exists over there. took out the steam radiator air valve, and we have steam coming out of there, and the radiator is heating up. Quote unquote, the new air valve, Hoffman,
Yeah,
number 40,
Yeah.
is obviously not doing its job anymore. Because now the radiator is heating up.
I have another new one.
Okay, so throw that in there, and as long as that's the right number and size for this distance, then it should work. But with no air valve in, the radiator is getting hot. But also, this piping comes up from over there,
Yeah.
right? You know that, right?
This way. Oh,
Goes around.
yeah.
Yeah. So if that piping is not pitched properly,
Yeah,
you
it's like a foot from here.
yeah. So if
It
it's
could even be a little bit more.
yeah, so if it's not pitched properly, that's also no good because the water's going to get trapped in there. So, but this is warm, starting to warm up there. So we'll put this back on for right now, carefully. See that steam coming out of there.
Oh, it's hot now.
Yeah, it's hot now, but that's not doing anything. So with this radiator and the noise that it's producing, the pitch, something happened with the pitch of the piping because water is where it shouldn't be. So in a steam system, if the piping is not pitched either away or back from the or back to the boiler, and or level or back pitched, you're going to have accumulation.
It should have some pitch, yeah.
It needs to have a pitch, so that way the water can travel somewhere. So when you hear that swishing sound, that means water is not traveling. And the steam traveling, 30, 35 miles an hour is hitting that water. And, eventually will start to bang. But the swishing sounds we're hearing there is just water's not making its way back to the point of origin. Whether it's by gravity going back to the boiler, because the pitch is pitched up away from the boiler, or at the end of the return, or the end of the steam main going back to the boiler. You also need to, because that's that furthest radiator, you said it's a new air valve.
Yeah,
you also need to address that the last steam main air valve also is suspect and also should be installed at a higher elevation from that steam main. Here's your living room, right?
Yeah.
You have a radiator there,
Yeah.
right? You have a radiator upstairs there. You have a radiator here. You have a radiator there.
Yeah.
You have
one right here.
this continue.
Yeah, to do the,
Yeah, but listen, hold on. You hear that? That hissing?
yeah.
That's no good. They should not hiss continuously. And if it continuously hisses, you're going to lose water, right? And that water is going to have to be replaced. When you replace water over and over and over again, you're going to cut a hole in the cast iron heat exchanger. And you'll be replacing that boiler again, or someone will be replacing that boiler yet again. All the air valves need to be quiet. You can't have them make noise. You have Amazon?
Amazon, yeah.
You have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
You're going to buy it. You see this book? We Got Steam Heat, $25 on Amazon. It's a homeowner's guide to peaceful coexistence with steam. If you read this book, you seem like a mechanically inclined individual. I see you got tools.
Metal fabricator.
There you go. So if you read this book, right,
Yeah.
and comprehend this book, you will be able to solve a lot of problems on your own. All right. And today's visit is a drop in the bucket, and money well spent, right? But $25 on Amazon, you'll read this in a weekend, and you will be a genius. You'll know more than me, not really, but close. All right, now back down here. Remember, you have a radiator over there, first floor, a radiator upstairs, right? You have a radiator there and a radiator here, right? And then this is bathroom,
Yeah, that's
right?
bathroom.
And then this is going somewhere. Yeah, this is your kitchen line going straight up, right? Which is cold to the touch. because maybe it's back pitched a little bit. See, this is like level almost. Okay, but what I wanted to show you in front of the house, there's that one radiator closer to the front door.
Right.
Here's that one radiator closer to the kitchen, right? And they're elbowed and they point towards each other. But this radiator is making the air valve noise. But now in the front of the house, here's your steam main. All right. This needs to be high. I would shove it up there as high as possible. Right. And then I see you're finishing the basement. Right. Yeah. Put an access panel here. That way you can get in there. So if you need to change it, or if you notice there's water leaking or whatever, you can get to it. Also, maybe put an access panel here as well, because eventually there's going to come a time where you need to flush out the wet return. You're going to open up the wall to do that, right? And they'll put a valve here and a drain, and you can have a purge like setup, whatever. But this radiator here, this line, this branch, goes to that front radiator on the first floor. Nothing here goes upstairs. That one goes upstairs. It goes into like above, like inside the framing of the left side of the house. It goes up and then goes around and ends up there on the second floor. That's a very long run. Yeah. So that one, if you don't have a good air valve on that radiator, it's gonna be ice cold forever. All right. You notice we took off that steam radiator air valve. It's heating up. You had a number 40 there. Yeah.
Just change it.
Yep. But I would also change that as well. And the 40 feet of 2-inch piping here, you're losing 4 or 5 radiators worth of heat. Yeah. It's hot, yeah. All right, so you ask a very good question. All right. You have this 3/4 inch line off the meter bar that goes to your water heater. You have this 1-inch line that goes to the boiler. So why is there a separate line for the boiler, right? So you have about, I would say, 2 elbows, so about 50-ish feet, and then you have that T with the cap and, okay. So you have a 36,000 BTU water heater that came from Home Depot. How do I know that? Because they're the only ones who sell 36,000 BTU water heaters, right? Yeah, and it has do not return the water heaters back where it came from. So what happened here more than likely is that the original fuel here was oil.
Yeah, there was a big tank. I took
yes,
from here.
Right from there.
Yeah.
So yes, so the boiler before this, or in the history of the house, had an oil-fired boiler. Now the plumber who put in the other boiler, right, and replaced it with gas, it was smart enough to realize that if I add a boiler to a 3/4 inch line that's running 50 feet, it's going to starve for fuel, right? So they installed this 1-inch line, right, here, and ran about 50 feet of 1-inch. And if you follow the fuel gas code and the fuel gas pipe charts, right, for X amount of water column per foot, X amount of feet, X amount of BTUs, you'll know that 1 inch is what this boiler needs at 135,000 BTUs at X amount of feet. There's a reason for that. So the reason why, because the previous system, they had an oil-fired boiler, they had a gas water heater. That gas water heater has that 3/4 inch piping, and
this was
so they couldn't use that, but they weren't going to touch it. Well, why touch it? It's fine. I don't need to worry about that. Add more cost to the job. So they ran a 1-inch line from the meter to the boiler, which we commonly do.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch something why? You're opening up a can of worms. But someone during the history of this home decided, well, okay, let's steal some gas, and we maybe have a gas dryer and then a gas stove above us or something. But now you have a gas dryer, gas stove, and guess what? This 1-inch is no longer big enough. Make sense?
Yeah.
So 50 feet, 1-inch, 177, and that's just assuming this is the right sizing chart for the incoming gas pressure, which is a 1/4 pound. So it should be, right? Because it makes sense. But if you notice, you have about 50 feet of 3/4, right? And it holds 98,000 BTUs, right? So 50 feet. Yeah, which is well under what that is. But imagine you have that 50 feet, which only holds 98, and you're adding 135, it's going to starve. But also what's compounding the problem here is that these two lines are added to that 1 inch. That 1 inch should be 1.25 inches, right? Which will give you 364,000.
This run. Yeah.
Yeah. So this run here, right? If this was 1.25 inches, you could put everything on that 1.25 inches. But they didn't. They ran 1 inch because they were only doing it to the boiler. Someone in the history of this home added this fitting here and created those 2 lines to burn fuel. A lot went on here. We learned a lot here in a short time we're here. But number one, this equalizer. Do you need to do it? Listen, read that book, and you'll want to do it, right? Because you just bought the home, right? Not too long ago. It came with the house. Yeah. You plan on leaving in 5 years. Who cares? Let someone else deal with it. But if you plan on being here for many years and retire here and die here, you might as well fix it because it's only going to pay you back in dividends. But the first thing you do is insulate all the piping, then work on doing this sooner rather than later, because the longer these fittings are in place, the harder they are to get out. But where there's a will, there's a way. But this pipe here, we would cut short. This would become an elbow or something. We would then put a T here and connect to this, and then equalize back to there with your Hartford Loop and your T. And that book will tell you everything. And guess what? It's also going to tell you who to let into your house and do this, and who not to let into your house and do this, because you're gonna know of what questions to ask and how they would do the job. If you don't, choose me, you call someone else. But it is what it is. And also the settings of this pressure troll.
That's not correct.
Yeah, it should be lower, right? But everything is for a reason, in my opinion, right? It may be higher than normal because they're compensating for a lack of equalizer. So they figured, let's build up more pressure, burning more fuel to create more pressure to get, gas, get the steam where it needs to be.
It's going to be reset.
Yeah, but you also may have the deficiencies of the overall install may become more obvious. If I lower the pressure, now half the house is cold because the piping isn't right and the piping isn't insulated.